So again, we thank you for coming this morning to Leslie Kirchoff and I'm Pat Garant. We share the job of being adult literacy, the R.E.A.D program, adult literacy coordinators at the library. The R.E.A.D program actually has been in existence since 1986. And it was started by a woman named Karen Upham, and she's still up here. She started the program. We share the job. Now we're in the office 3 mornings a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday mornings, but available other times, just if we organize them. The location is, if you go upstairs to the youth area and up the ramp into the Judith Stillion conference room, we're one of the doors off of that conference room, as is Nancy's office too.
We're right
And
next
Maker
door
Lab
to
is
the
right
Maker
there.
Lab.
Yep. So I've seen in the Maker Lab, I just have to add, I know a person who is a grandma who brings her grandkids there every time they have break. They come up to visit grandma, and those kids are regulars. They love it.
We're retired teachers, both of us from Alpena Public Schools, and we think we have the best retirement job there could possibly be, working at the library as coordinators for the R.E.A.D program. So the R.E.A.D program, being as a coordinator, it allows us to continue to use our education, our experience, our knowledge that we've gained throughout the years and still serve the community. So we're very grateful. We are, as part of the R.E.A.D program, we're members of Pro-Literacy, which is the largest literacy organization in the United States. And it, as a part of its membership, it offers us lots of opportunities to share professional development with all of our tutors and for us through webinars, resources, tons and tons of resources at their website. They also offer an online tutor training. If we have tutors that are interested in becoming a R.E.A.D tutor and have missed our training, then they can do an online version of that training as well, which is very thorough and it's a great training. So we're also members at a state level of an organization called CALM, which is a coalition of adult literacy, Coalition of Adult Literacy in Michigan. There we go. And it is a group of literacy organizations, most of which are all in the southern part of the state. So we are kind of the loners up here in northern Michigan. We're also the very smallest, but it's an opportunity for us to meet monthly with them, and we share programming events, problem solve together, and just talk about issues that we're all dealing with, no matter where we are in the state of Michigan. And then also on the state level, we're members of McKay, which I'm going to try to get this right. Michigan Alternative
Adult Community
Alternative Education Association. And then on the local level, we're members of the Human Services Coordinating Council in Alpena. And we meet monthly with many nonprofit organizations, well over 20 of them. Some that I can think of are Salvation Army, the Department of Health and Human Services, Michigan, Northeast Michigan Community Mental Health,
Catholic
Human Services, the Veterans Organization, Alpena Public Schools, and I could go on and on. There are so many of them. But just recently, in last month, this group of nonprofits held an event called Project Connect. It was at the high school, and it was a place where community members that needed help could come and get free food. All of the nonprofits that we mentioned were represented there, and we offered resources, materials. Pat and I were there with the R.E.A.D program representing the library and our program, and we offered information about all the things the library offers as well as the R.E.A.D program, and we gave free books to families as well. So it was a really a nice event.
Okay, so the mission of the R.E.A.D program is we provide adult learners with instruction in reading, writing, math, and English as a second English language and English as a second language in order to enrich their lives and help them thrive at home, in the workplace, in the community. And we also, as our mission, it is to train volunteers to do this, because the volunteers, they are the program actually. And we train them to deliver the lessons in an individualized way. It's an opportunity. We start always with the learner and their objective. And so it's very individualized, guided by research-based best practice.
So now we get kind of to the heart of what we do. And we know that illiteracy is a huge problem, not just for Alpena, but everywhere. And so not only illiteracy, but low literacy. And so when we talk about people that have low levels of literacy, we're talking about people that struggle to fill out an application, can't understand or read the directions from their doctor, can't read on the internet, follow a map. What am I missing? Complete a survey, fill out a job application. So these are people that you'll hear us talk about this term low literacy a lot. And those are the people that we're talking about that struggle with those kind of things. We know that if we can improve their literacy, it'll help them rise out of poverty. We know that they will be able to get a job and sustain a sustainable job that will keep them. Employment changes lives. So that's really where our focus is. Oh, that's me. So just to give you an idea of the scope of the problem in the country, in the United States as a whole, and then we'll bring it down to Alpena. But in our country, there are about 36 million adults that cannot read, write, or do math above a third grade level. There are about 43% of people that are have low literacy levels that are living in poverty. We spend about $232 billion on added healthcare costs because people, it impacts their ability to make good decisions about healthcare. We're losing about $225 billion every year on non-productivity in the workforce. Lots of unemployment, lowers the tax base or the tax revenue that we get. And we also know that about 75% of the state prison inmates did not graduate from high school and would be considered to have very low levels of literacy.
So for Alpena, the low literacy, the effects of it is definitely felt here. The unemployment percentage in the United States is 3.7%. In Alpena, it's 4.2%. Low literacy obviously can lead to dropping out of high school. And in the 2021 through 2022 school year, Alpena High School, the graduation rate was 74.2%. We have 16.2% of the people taking advantage of the SNAP program, the Supplemental Food Program here. And as everywhere, children who have illiterate parents, they then will struggle in school because they lack of books at home or lack of language or lack of educational opportunities or lack of focus. And sometimes these parents they are working parents. They have low-level jobs, a couple low-level jobs. They don't have the opportunity to read to their kids at night. It's just a kind of a generational thing that can happen. The 2023 poverty level here in Alpena is 15.8%. And poverty, as Leslie said about the percentage in the jails, can lead to overcrowding in jails. And we just built a new jail here due to overcrowding. And so the effects are here in Alpena.
Oops. Okay. So we had our tutor training last fall, and in that training, we trained 5 new tutors. And I just want to talk a little bit about those tutors and all the tutors that we've had in the past and continue to have to this day. And those tutors all have in common several things. So one is that they absolutely love learning. They're not done learning, and they want to share their learning with others. They tend to be very kind, empathetic people. They are willing to go the extra mile to help others. They just want to give back and help others. And they're patient people, which is really a gift because if they're working with someone who has struggled to learn how to read their whole life, they're not going to teach them to learn how to read in a couple months. So they have to be very patient and know that it's little steps lead to success. And they always tend to be. They meet twice a week with their one individual learner, and it's about an hour to an hour and a half each time. That varies, but that generally is the goal that we look for so that their learner can see success is to meet on that regular basis. There it goes.
I'm using my left hand because of the problem here. I don't know. So the READ program, what we do, our job is to help people, and what we train our tutors to teach. And our tutors are not all retired teachers. I'm going to just read my list. We have doctors, pastors, office workers, accountants, hairdressers, nurses, engineers, artists, at-home parents. We have anybody who's interested in helping others. And we will train them. And so training involves 5 evening sessions, and an introduction to the READ program is one, basic literacy 1 and 2, teaching reading, helping to support someone studying for the GED is another session, and teaching English as a second language is the last session. And our trainees can choose the sessions they're interested in. And when they're with us during the training, we teach them research-based strategies for teaching reading. We teach about, and like vocabulary, fluency, comprehension, writing skills. We help, we tell them about the GED so they're aware of the test and give them some studying skill hints for the GED. And also we help them in the art of teaching English as a second language. They also learn about students with learning disabilities, which is a really interesting part of our training for most people. There's so much there. And we make sure we talk to people about the barriers to learning. And there are lots of reasons why people have ended up in this situation. It's usually not their fault, actually, when they're 30 years old and they need to get their GED. But the barriers to tutoring also are not obvious. And this is there are housing insecurities, there are transportation issues, there are job erratic scheduling, there are these are adults. Oh, I'm sorry, these these are adults, and so they have children, they have elderly parents, they have other priorities, and so we make sure that our tutors get the full picture. Sorry about that.
Okay, we'll try and see. So when we get started with a referral, and we get referrals from lots of different places, but I will tell you that most of them come from family, friends. We had a landlord once refer somebody to the READ program for help. We have in the past had referrals from community mental health, from Light of Hope Clubhouse, the jail, the Sunrise Center or Family Recovery Center, which is the residential drug and alcohol treatment facility. So, and sometimes people just walk in the library and go up to the desk and say, do you have somebody that can help me with? And then we get the call. So once we have a referral, we ask them to come into the READ office, which we mentioned is right next to the makerspace. And we will sit down with them. And if they're coming for reading help, then we will give them a reading test to determine what their strengths are, what challenges they have. If they're coming for English as ESL or English as a second language help, then we would give them a test to find out what level of English they're at. And then we just talk. We just sit and get to know them as much as we possibly can, know what challenges they have in their life right now that might interfere with tutoring. When are they going to be available? Can they get to the library? Do we have to find a different place for them to meet? We just need to know as much about them as we can to help them. Then when we finish with that, then Pat and I will match them up with a tutor. And we will arrange that first meeting, and the tutor and the learner will meet in the READ office, and one of us will be there to introduce them. And it's no lessons are going to happen then. It's just a chance for the tutor and the learner to get to know each other, to talk about what the learner's goals are, to see maybe what the materials are they're going to be using, which Pat and I will have already selected. And then they exchange contact information. And from that point forward, that learner and the tutor arrange where they're going to meet, when they're going to meet, and how often. And then they go. But Pat and I aren't done. We are always there. We're always there supporting. We're just a phone call away, a text away. If a tutor calls and says, I'm using this book and it's just my learner just doesn't like it. Well, then we're going to find something else that works. Or if they'll say, this isn't working, I need a new strategy. What can you help me? Pat and I will help come up with another strategy to help them learn. So we are always there in the background supporting. Our tutors are never out alone. We're always a part of them helping.
There we go.
There,
That's
Nancy.
much better. Yeah. So currently we have, we average around 15 students at a time. And currently we have 14 of them, 14 learners. We have 3 people studying for their GED. We have 7 people studying English as a second language. The countries they are from are China, Turkey, South Korea, Mexico, and Lebanon. Isn't that interesting? I find that so interesting. We've been marking on a map in our office, all the different countries, people here in Alpena. Yes.
That's just 5 countries, but I wrote down all of the countries that we have had somebody coming from, and I got to add some more. Japan, Venezuela, Malawi, Colombia, Russia, El Salvador, Ecuador, the Dominican Republic, and Thailand. All over the world, people have found us, and we've helped. Go ahead.
I know was a real eye opener for me. Who would expect that? I didn't. But basic literacy, we have 4 learners who are studying basic literacy right now. So for GED, they come and study right in our office with their tutor, or our tutors will go over to Michigan Works and sit in their computer lab and sit side by side as they work the GED program there. ESL, they meet at the library, or they sometimes meet in stores because it's cultural education as well as language. Things are a lot different. And that is an interesting thing if you are the tutor or the coordinators, because they share seeing Alpena or US life through a different perspective is really interesting. The things that we assume or don't realize, it's just very interesting. We help people. It all depends on their goals, but with their life skills. We had a man who he couldn't distinguish real mail from junk mail. He just wasn't a good enough reader. It all looked real to him, and his tutor would help him sort that out. People come because they want to get a driver's license, a specific goal like that, life skills.
So we've had tutors that have ranged in age from 18 all the way up to 90, if you can believe it. And the gentleman that Pat was talking about came to us when he was 75. He had worked all his life, retired from his job, was collecting a small pension, but he never learned to read. So the mail problem is what brought him to us. He just didn't know if he was throwing out important pieces of mail or was it junk mail. And then Pat, you could tell the story
And
of,
I'll add about him. This man was so smart. He wasn't a reader, but he was so smart. He was in management. He delegated the tasks. He didn't do them. He delegated them. And so people didn't even know that he couldn't read.
and tell the story about the 90-year-old.
Okay, and we had a gal that was in her 90s that had raised 12 children and she wanted to be a better reader. And she said, yeah, she read books to all of her kids all the time, but she wasn't really reading. She said she had memorized the stories. She was such a dear. I took that one. I didn't get her a tutor. I just took her and we tutored. We tutored, we were in the middle of a novel and she was bedridden and dying and she wanted to know the end of her story. So the day before she died, we were out and I went out to her farm and we were laying there and reading her book and we finished the book. It was just the best, you know.
So, we're talking about people that struggle to learn how to read, and there are so many reasons that something happened in their life that interfered with their learning to read. Maybe they had a reading disability when they were growing up, or they moved around a lot and missed a ton of school, or had health issues and were out sick and missed a lot of school. So many different reasons, drug and alcohol problems in their family. And you just never know what was in their past that caused them to not be able to learn how to read. But so we have levels of reading all the way from pre-primer, the very beginning, up to 8th grade, which is what people who are working on their GED are generally about at that level of reading. So the reading level of the people that we work with is very broad. We just have to share a few more stories with you. We had a housekeeper who was working full-time and making good money. And but she came to us asking for help reading because some of the people in the homes that she was cleaning were leaving messages and she couldn't read the messages. And she was so afraid that she was going to miss something and not do something that they asked. So she came to us and asked to help with her reading. We did match her up with a tutor and they worked several years together until she got so busy in her job, she actually had no more time for tutoring. She was just working so much. But her reading improved and she met her goals, so she was very happy. And then we had another gentleman who worked he went to work for a large organization in Alpena. And at that time when he started work, they required that he wear a pager. And he couldn't read what was on the pager. He thought he was going to lose his job. So he came to us asking for help so that he wouldn't lose his job. And we matched him up with a tutor and they worked many years together. He did not lose his job. He's retired from that position and he and his current tutor are still working because he just is not ready to quit learning. His reading is improving, but it's been very slow, but he's not done. And so they actually meet about 2 hours every week. And he is just dedicated to learning to read better. We had a gentleman who was working at Walmart and he had an opportunity to get a better job, but he needed to take a test. And he was so afraid he was going to pass the test that he came to us and said, please, I need to improve my reading. I want to pass this test. And he had kids at home and he was afraid that he wasn't going to be able to read to them at night. So he got a tutor. They worked together and he did pass the test. And then, eventually his goals were met and then he moved on. We have English as a second language people which we mentioned that come from all over the world, but I have to tell you a story about one of them at least. This woman moved to Alpena from Venezuela with her husband and family, and he was moving here for work. And she in Venezuela was a pharmacist, but spoke very little English. So when she had to attend social events with her husband, She was unable to communicate with the coworkers or the spouses of the coworkers. She just needed help. So she came to us, asked if we would find a tutor for her. We did, and they worked together several years. Her English improved tremendously, and at a certain point, she decided she wanted to become a U.S. citizen. So then their tutoring shifted to working on citizenship. And as they were working on that, her husband said, well, I want to become a U.S. citizen too. So he participated in the tutoring of the citizenship tutoring. Eventually, it was a family of four, husband, wife, and two kids. They went to Detroit. They all passed the citizenship tests, became four new U.S. citizens. And when it was time for the swearing in, they invited their tutor to come. And so she was so honored to be there in Detroit when they were sworn in as U.S. citizens. So there are so many wonderful things that happen that you can be a part of as a tutor.
Yeah, and we also had a man, he didn't, from Vietnam, he didn't want general ESL. He just wanted his citizenship and he got it. He got it. It was quite a bit of work, but, so, okay, so putting it all together, so what, actual, I've said this already, but the heart of our program are our volunteers. And then we are very grateful to the library because they provide us with all the materials. They provide computers and computer classes for people. They provide spaces to meet. People meet in our office, or also if you go upstairs to the youth department, behind the youth desk, there are two privacy rooms that anybody can, you can reserve them if you're going to be there every week, but they're closed door and they're privacy rooms in perfect spots for tutoring, perfect place. Because part of our job is removing as many barriers as possible, we also have tutor teams meet outside of the office. I think Leslie saw it, the Salvation Army. We had a gal that couldn't drive and she lived on the north side. So the Salvation Army let us tutor there so she could just walk there. And same with Child and Family Services on the other end of town. Somebody lived on Golf Course Road. They couldn't come in, but they could walk there. They let us have a room for tutoring.
Can I share one more story?
Sure.
We had a Chinese, he was 12. I think we were tutoring his mother as well, but he lived on M32 West, and it was going to be too hard for him. Transportation was an issue for tutoring, and he was learning English. And so Culver's was very kind and allowed them to meet in a booth once or I think they actually met twice a week for the whole summer before he moved. And he and his tutor would meet in a booth and practice English. And at the end, he was able to go up and order in English a drink and I think fries or something for him and his tutor. And the management at Culver's were just so proud of him because they've been watching this happen. So community members are really important too in supporting this program.
They are. We had a man at Sunrise Center pass the portion of his GED test and they made him a cake. They celebrated. It was awesome. It's good use of time. So, and also we collaborate a lot with Michigan Works. We help when people go to their program. Nicole Hatch will call us for tutors for people fairly regularly to help.
So, how can you help us? In your packet, you have information about the R.E.A.D program, and we hope that you will share that with all of your friends and family. We're amazed sometimes. We've been there at the very beginning. We said we've been in the library since 1986, but it's amazing to us that so many people don't know that we're there. So please share the word. Let everybody know that we're there and this wonderful free service that we provide. If you know of somebody that could use help, English as a second language, studying for their GED, or just improving their reading, please encourage them, give them the phone number and have them call us, and we'd love to help them. And The number is 989-356-6188, extension 15. And that number is also on our brochure that's in your bag as well. But you can also just call the library and they'll direct you to us as well.
You can also, people come, they step into the library and come upstairs and talk to us.
Yeah,
That
just
happens.
walk in our door. That's fine. And then, of course, the last thing, if you are so inclined, we would love to have you be a tutor. And we are going to be having another training coming up, in-person training, probably September, October-ish. We haven't set the dates yet, but we will do that very quickly. And so if you're interested, give us a call. We'll put your name down, and when the tutoring starts, we'll keep you informed of all the dates and the times as well. And I guess the last thing just is, we've talked at you a lot, and we're sorry about that, but a lot of information to get across. Do you have questions that we can? Yes, Ruth? That happens and they just go. Oh, the question was, how do you accommodate tutors when they go on vacation? And tutors take vacations, and so do the learners. And so when that happens, they just go and they say, well, we're not going to meet for the next 2 weeks. I'll be gone. And then we'll catch up when we get back. But yeah, most of the people that are tutoring are retired, take vacations. And so it works, it works out. But that's a good question.
It is a good question. We have some tutor teams that don't meet in the summer. They just know they're not going to meet in the summer, and then they pick up again in the fall. That happens. We have a tutor right now who's learner enrolled at CMU and was leaving and still wanted to tutor, so they tutor via Zoom. Well, Google Meet they use, but they just continued that way. So it's really between the tutor and the learner. They work out the schedule, but it's very flexible according to the needs of everybody.
Other questions? Well, thank you for having us. Please share our info.